Hello, I'm here to tell you about B cells. B cells and other lymphocytes are important parts of your immune system. They hang out in your blood and other tissues. Their job is to look out for anything that might be harmful, including pathogens like viruses, bacteria, or parasites. B cells have B cell receptors that help them recognize certain shapes on pathogens, called antigens. Naive B cells roam around and bump into things until their receptor recognizes its matching antigen. When a B cell receptor encounters its antigen, it activates the B cell. The activated B cell produces more of itself and secretes proteins called IgM. IgM is one class of proteins called antibodies that have important functions in your immune response. IgM proteins are bulky, and binding of IgM to an invading pathogen makes it difficult for it to move or do other things. This also signals cells like monocytes to alert the rest of your immune system, or help cells like macrophages eat the pathogen up. Now, the IgMs are helpful, but they are not the most enthusiastic when it comes to activating other parts of the immune system. Sometimes they don't bind very well and fall off. So how do we improve upon this rather lackluster performance? Teamwork. T cells have receptors similar to B cells and can interact with B cells to help them improve the immune response. With T cell help, the B cell switches from producing IgM to IgG. It continues to make copies of itself, and some of these develop into memory B cells that live a long time. These produce plasma cells that basically are antibody factories. Memory B cells also undergo a process called somatic hypermutation. This introduces changes in the antibody that sometimes can result in better binding antibody. So memory B cells are important because they allow us to develop better and stronger antibodies, and they produce long-lived plasma cells that provide a continuing supply of antibody. They allow us to have a stronger and faster immune response when we encounter infection again. However, there are some memory B cells that don't act the same way. They sometimes are called atypical memory B cells. In contrast to classic memory B cells, atypical memory B cells are much less responsive when they encounter antigen. The plasma cells that they produce also don't seem to secrete as much antibody, and they don't seem to live for very long. And while atypical memory B cells only make up a small percentage of memory B cells in healthy people, this can be much higher in people with chronic infections such as HIV, hepatitis C, tuberculosis, or chronic malaria. In our previous research study on febrile illness in Kenyan children, 50 to 60% of children with fever had malaria. So we asked the question, do Kenyan children who have high year-round exposure to malaria have higher proportions of atypical compared to classic memory B cells? And our main result, atypical memory B cells constituted a mean of about 40% of peripheral memory B cells. For more results, please see our poster. Thanks for your attention.